Good. So, general information about the proposal. So how a few tip and tricks, but very big general picture of the proposal writing. What we will talk about today, we will concentrate on pillar 2 and in particular on the 6 clusters where you have to hand in a proposal in a collaborative project. We will not talk about mono-beneficiary grants from the pillar 1 like ERC or Marie Curie, or mono-beneficiary grants from pillar 3 like the EIC, for example. A lot of things that we will talk about today applies also for collaborative projects in pillar 1 or in pillar 2. Could it be EIC Pathfinder, or could it be research infrastructures? But the focus today is really the 6 clusters in pillar 2. And before we bring you in the nitty-gritty details, actually, as a good Swiss people, so we like hiking in the mountains, and when you go and hike in the mountain, and then writing a proposal is very similar to hike a mountain, where the end of the journey or the end of the goal of the hike is to reach some summit in that mountain, and this summit is the proposal submission that you will have in a couple of weeks or a couple of months from now. But as you know, if you go do hiking, the most important thing is the preparation, and in particular is to make sure that you have everything in your backpack for this hike. And this is what we're going to do with you today. So what we're going to show you today with my colleagues is to show you which elements you have to put in your backpack in order to reach the goal of the hike to this submission of the proposal. What we will not show you are each individual topics. So we assume that by now you should have at least an idea on which topics you want to submit. So we will not talk about, let's say, which summit you want to reach, or this is part of other presentation which has been done in the past, and I refer you to the Euresearch YouTube channel, where you have a thematic presentation on the different areas, or a lot of presentation which have been done by the European Commission. So what does a proposal look like? The first thing important to a European proposal is to understand the timeline. So the typical timeline to hand in a proposal is the following. So there is the topic publication, which happened actually yesterday evening. So the call, so a lot of work program have been enabled on the funding and tender portal, but probably by now you already know on which topic you want to submit. Then again, these are collaborative projects, so you have to build up a consortium, and then the call opens eventually at some point, and then you can start writing you start writing your proposal before the call opening usually, but then you can really start submitting in the funding and tender portal of the Commission. And the proposal writing is what we're going to discuss today. Then there is the deadline. This is the summit we want to reach together with you in a couple of months from now. And then there is the evaluation procedure, which we will touch upon later on. The work program and the topics do not come out of nowhere. There is a logic in Horizon Europe, and in particular, they are the so-called impact pathways. So the logic is that there is the European policy. So Europe makes a work program with a clear goal in mind, and this is framed by the European policy, and the goals are spelled out in the key strategic orientation. These then translates into expected impact in the strategic plan. These expected impacts, they do flow in one important document, which is called the work program, which has been published yesterday, in particular at the destination level. So at the destination level, you have expected impact. Now, it's very important to understand that the European project, with your European project, you have to contribute, or you're expected to contribute to these expected impact in the destinations. So reading the impact in the destination is an important element, and these are there are 3 key impact pathways. This is the naming that the Commission is using. So there are 9 of them, but they are grouped in 3 main areas. So the scientific impact, social impact, and an economic and a technological impact. So this is for the key impact pathways. If we drill down at the work program level, it also has a logic. And the logic is the following. So again, in the work program, you will find big chapters, which are destinations. And at the lower level, so-called topics. The topics are those areas, so these entries where you will actually submit a proposal. So you must have a topic in mind and answer these, the expected goals at the impact. The destination, again, has expected impact, but at the topic level, you have 2 elements, which are the scope and the expected outcomes. This is so expected impact at the destination level, expected outcomes at the topic level, plus a scope at the topic level. So these are the structuring elements that you have to achieve at the end of your project. And then these topics are grouped together in so-called calls, which are going to open very soon if they are not open yet. So logic of the destination level, logic at the topic level. Now we go on with another element that we'll find in the topics, and this is the so-called technology readiness level, TRL. So this technology readiness level is something that will appear throughout the different topics, and you will have is a measure actually of the maturity of the technology. It starts, the scale starts at level 1, which are basic principles observed in the lab, and that goes up to TRL 9, where the technology is embedded in a device or in a service in the operational environment. And through this scale, the maturity is step by step matured, and the technology is matured step by step, getting from the lab to the test bench, from the test bench to the test environment, and so forth and so on, until it reaches the operational the integration in a larger system and integration in the operational environment. Now let's come to the proposal itself. The proposal itself that you will be handing in has a structure. It has 2 parts. It has a part A, which contains key information like the member of the consortium, the budget, and ethical assessments, and this kind of elements. And it has a part B, which is a more descriptive part of what you intend to do within the project. And the part B itself has 3 elements, which are the excellence, the impact, and the implementation. Today, we will bring you through part A, but mostly part B. So the webinar today is structured through these 3 elements of excellent, impact, and implementation. Be aware that the part B has a template. So there is a so-called RTF file template that you can download as soon as you start the submission process in the funding and tender portal. So as soon as the calls open, one of the first things you do, you open you register your proposal, and then you download the template of part B. There are a number of key novelties with Horizon Europe, which we will touch upon during the morning, but I just want to summarize some of them here. So the first one, there have been adjustments between Part A and Part B compared to Horizon 2020. So the first adjustment is that Part B had the section 4, where you were describing the member of the consortium, and this does not exist anymore. So Part B has only 3 sections and not 5 sections anymore. So section 4, member of the consortium, now has been moved to Part A. Also, the section 5, which was there in the past, where you had ethics and security, has been moved also to Part A. The the page limit has been reduced, so be aware about that. Usually for research and innovation action, typically the page limit was 70 pages in the past. It has been reduced to 45 pages. The terminologies for third parties has been adapted, so this will be, we will touch upon that later on in the next presentation. Gender has always been an important element in Horizon 2020, but Horizon Europe is even stronger, meaning now it's even it's an eligibility criteria. It's an evaluation criteria, sorry, and there is a new element, a gender equality plan, which will be, which is not mandatory yet, but which will be soon mandatory. Open science, also something which existed in the past, but has been, which is stronger now. So what you knew from Horizon 2020, like data management plan and publishing in open access remains, but it's even stronger now, meaning typically you cannot publish in journal with embargo time, for example. Novelty is related to the Green Deal activities and the Green Deal objectives of the European Commission. So you might be aware that, you might know that the Commission has an ambitious plan concerning the Green Deal, and there is a new principle, this do no harm principle, which is you have to address in your proposal in order to identify if there are technologies or impacts from your proposal which are impacting these Green Deal actions that the Commission is putting into place. Finally, which was also there in the past, but which is also stronger now, there is an obligation to exploit. So in the past, the Commission was pushing you very much, encouraging you to exploit your results, and this is even stronger now. In particular, the Commission will ask you to publish a result ownership list, and they will also create a Horizon result platform where the results of European project will be published, and they in the emergency cases the Commission has the right to there is an emergency clause which allows the Commission to exploit the results of from European projects. You, as a Swiss, the most important message today is that as a Swiss, you should submit your proposal as if you were an associated country to Horizon Europe. In case the association do not come into force in due time, don't be afraid. The Swiss government is preparing a fallback scenario where the Swiss participants in projects selected by the European Commission would be funded by the Swiss government. Good. So with that, I'm done with the general introduction, and then I hand over to my colleague, Nicole Nanciat, for her part. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesco. So I will now quickly provide you an overview also on general information, but from a legal and financial perspective. So what are your requirements to participate in any of the just published calls? So first of all, you need to be eligible for being a beneficiary. Who is a beneficiary? Is any legal entity which is independent and that receives funding from the Commission, that joins together with other partners into a consortium, and that signs different type of agreements. We will see which one. In general, as a beneficiary, you need to be established either in a member state, in an associated country, in a third country with low income, or in a third country foreseen in the call text. Between the associated countries, the UK is already one of them that was confirmed. So any UK established independent legal entity can participate as a beneficiary. The full list of associated countries will appear, however, much further in time, longer than now. Any other entity established in any other type of third countries is not considered a beneficiary unless it is deemed to be essential for the call. Of course, are not countries applying for the project, but entities. And what type of entities are these? Well, can be non-profit organization, can be public and private bodies, SMEs, research organizations, international European research organizations, and secondary or higher education establishments. Those with the mini red cross are those that from the upcoming calls with deadline in 2022 will need also to provide a gender equality plan. This will be compulsory for these entities to have in order to be eligible for funding. Remember that international organizations are not meant to be beneficiaries unless deemed again to be essential to the project, or if their participation is explicitly foreseen in the call. So what type of fundings are available? It depends on the type of call. There are three types. The Research and Innovation Access, so RIA, which the aim is to establish new knowledge and or explore new or improved technologies, products, and services. In this case, the funding rate you would receive for your project is 100% of your direct costs. In case of innovation actions, instead, the funding rate is 100% for non-profit entities and 70% for for-profit entities. The aim of innovation actions is to produce plans or designs for new, altered, or improved products, processes, or services. And finally, the CSA actions have the aim to accompany measures, for example, standardizations or networking, policy dialogues, etc. And here the funding rate is 100% of all your direct costs. For what concerns the consortium, the composition is, for those that are familiar with Horizon 2020, similar but slightly different. So the rule is the so-called 1+2, so at least one entity from one member state of the European Union, plus at least two other entities, each from different member states or associated countries. Hence, if you consider to have a Swiss entity in your consortium and your consortium is extremely small, we would recommend you to consider to have the composition as a base, so 1+2, plus one that will be your Swiss entity, additional Swiss entity. This is why in case of a delay in the association or non-association, the consortium will be able still to be eligible for the project. And finally, the consortium has a lot of obligations. These are obligations stated in different types of agreements. Which agreements? The grant agreement, which is the main contract between your consortium and the European Commission. The consortium agreement, which is the agreement among the partners of your consortium. And finally, any other bilateral agreement that may be done between you and a partner of your consortium, or you and a third party that will work on the project as well. As mentioned before, the Swiss participation to Horizon Europe is still a bit unclear. The main goal from SERI, so the State Secretary for Research and Innovation and Education, is to reach a full association. So ideally, we will soon have the agreement that allows any Swiss entity to participate as a beneficiary as associated country. However, in case for any reason at the time of the signature of your grant agreement, you don't have yet the full association to Horizon Europe, then your status will be switched to associated partners, which is one type of third party, which we will see later on during the day what type of role and obligation has toward the consortium. So taking again the timeline that Francesco showed you earlier, here you have again the full the full timeline, how to apply for any of the calls. Remember at the proposal submission to participate as associated country. This is possible, and it's possible also to participate as a Swiss entity as coordinator. Wait 5 months for the proposal evaluation, and once you get your call results, if in case of a successful proposal, you will be starting the grant agreement preparation phase. This lasts about 3 months, and in these 3 months, if the Association of Switzerland to Horizon Europe is confirmed, you're perfectly ready to start with your project with no further changes to your proposal. On the contrary, if the association has not been yet confirmed or has been rejected, as Francesco mentioned, don't worry, the funding is guaranteed and will come rather than from the European Union. It will come from the FERI. However, your status inside of the project will change from a beneficiary, associated country, into a third party, associated partner. And in case you are a coordinator, the coordination will be shifted from you to another beneficiary inside the consortium. So the relevant date for understanding whether the association is confirmed or not is the date of the signature of the grant. And with this, I'm also done with my part. And I guess we are ready to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Francesco and Nicole. So at this point, we only have one question in the Q&A, which is potentially more a question for Ricardo. Thank you for the webinar. Is there any information regarding the use of SRL in the new framework programs?
Thank you, Jenny, for reading the question, and thank you for whoever posted it, because this question allows us to touch an important point. So SRL is stand for Societal Readiness Level. That is an equivalent of the TRL, the Technological Readiness Level. This scale has been introduced because in many projects for social sciences and humanities, the TRL do not directly apply. So there is the need to have a similar scale for other cases. Another one is also for business readiness level. So now, answering the question, no, at the best of our knowledge, there is no explicit mention of the SRL on the work program and to use them. But please, if they are appropriate in your proposal, use them. The only precaution we mention is to add a definition of what they are, because it could be that the expert that are evaluating your proposal, they are not familiar with them. So please feel free to use them, but use some time to explain them.